to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Oh, I am so excited.
Why is that, Andy?
Well, it's the Footies. The Footies are here.
I've heard there's some other awards around the town. There's some Oscars,
Golden Globes,
some Emmys, some ESPYs.
You know what the hardest part?
Tonys.
The hardest part of this whole Footies thing was turning Jimmy Fallon down. He offered to host
He did.
and we said, "I'm sorry."
It was more of a.
We have a host.
It was a begging.
It was
a
more of a
pleading.
beg. Yeah. But
Sorry,
we
Jimmy.
still love you, Jimmy.
we're the hosts.
Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. We have the 2016 second annual Footie Awards, Fantasy Football Awards. You guys voted. Guys and gals out there, you voted for the winner
There's some close ones.
of a number of incredible categories, including Nickname of the Year, the most prestigious.
Who?
And we have the results from those votes today on the show, handing out the official 2016 Footies. Very, very excited about that. Want to remind everybody, you want to know what's going on in the offseason, the prolonged bye week, as we call it. We're still recording. Come and follow us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. Find out everything we're doing. We're also recording show after the shows now on YouTube. So if you want to check out a little extra content for free, we call that pro bono, which is, I guess, all our shows are pro bono.
That's right.
You can check that out on YouTube. And, yeah, it's pretty cool. We did one on Tuesday. So check out the website, thefantasyfootballers.com, if you want to get involved with our community, which is together and chatting and building leagues together all off-season.
And listening to an extra episode every single week, which we will be recording today. Go to jointhefoot.com.
That is correct. You will get access to that. So, occasionally, from time to time, we appreciate, obviously, your reviews, and so we like to read them from time to time on the show. And by we, I mean Jason. So without further ado,
Review-a-Saurus Rex.
This one comes in from DD Top. Verified excellent, 5 stars. I discovered this podcast while hiking the Pacific Crest Trail.
ooh,
August was approaching, and I wanted to get a head start on preparing for the fantasy football season. When I had service, I regularly downloaded a slew of fantasy football podcasts since I generally hiked for 10 to 12 hours a day.
Wow.
What? Crazy. Listen, I'm not Jeff Fisher. When there's a clear talent, I stick with them. After weeks of listening to as many fantasy football podcasts as I could get my hands on, I settled on this one. It is far and away the most informative, intelligent, and entertaining podcast of any category, let alone fantasy football. But that's not all. These are likable guys. Oh, that's so sweet. You feel like you're part of the group. Anyway, the point is, it's a locked and loaded podcast, one with high upside. Put this one in your lineup. Well, thank you, DD Top.
Well, thank you for the review. And I selected this review because we have vowed to, be in better shape in 2017.
We have the year of health.
The year of health. And what better way than 10 to 12 hours of hiking a day?
I have a couple critiques for
10 to
this.
12.
Couple critiques for this review here. Number one, really appreciate it, DD Top. Thank you so much. But if you're trying to get a head start for your fantasy football knowledge, you don't start in August, my friend. You do not start when preseason is already rolling through. And
even if you got 10 to 12 hours a day to commit to it.
Yeah, and then referring to us as intelligent.
You're 2/3. 2/3, but you can't count me in that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. We appreciate the iTunes reviews and support of the listeners out there. We also want to remind you, we have the playoff challenge going on right now at NFL.com, the NFL.com playoff challenge. You can check our Twitter. We've been tweeting out the link to our group. We want to have a big group participating over there. I think I checked it. We announced it on Tuesday. I checked it yesterday, and we were around the 5th largest group. Jason,
come on.
I'm on
Jason,
it.
do you want to do an audit and see where we're at now?
I'm on it. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 still?
Yes.
How many are in there?
1,466.
Okay. Well, come get in on the action. Just find the Fantasy Footballers group. Join us. It's free. It's fun. The way it works is you basically pick individual players at every position. If they happen to remain in the playoffs, you get a multiplier the next week, and you stick with that same player. So, for example, if you were to select Aaron Rodgers in week 1 and they win, you get him at a 2-time multiplier in week 2. They win again. 3-time multiplier. You go to the Super Bowl. You're making money.
You could pull a Mike Wright, and you could pick the guys on bye.
Mike took all bye weekends.
You don't get any points week 1, but you guarantee that every single one of your players is playing week 2 on a multiplier. That's an all right strategy.
We'll see.
I think if you can pick those wild card teams that go to the Super Bowl, that's the key.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I have no wild card teams going to the Super Bowl. If you've been listening, you know that we are doing a bracket challenge, the 3 of us, and we filled out our playoff brackets yesterday.
That is correct.
The winner of our playoff bracket challenge will be picking lunches for the losers for an entire week. Do we want to give out
I think
our
we do.
picks?
I think it would be good to just give out the picks. The games are approaching, and so let's go ahead and break down each of the matchups. Let's start in the AFC, the Miami-Pittsburgh matchup. Who do you guys have winning this game?
What's incredible about the AFC, we did these at the same time but completely separate. We didn't announce who we were picking in any game until we were done with our entire bracket. Then we go, okay, let's go through this. Our entire AFC is identical.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just give our picks for the AFC. We have Pittsburgh beating Miami, and we all went with Houston topping Oakland.
I was surprised all 3 of us went that way.
Sure. And then we have Kansas City over Houston.
Yes.
And we have
The Patriots over.
Actually, it wouldn't be Kansas City over Houston, right?
No, you were correct. It would be
Kansas City over
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Yeah, and so we took Kansas City over Pittsburgh, and then we took New England over Houston, and then we all took New England over Kansas City in the AFC title game going to the Super Bowl. On the other side, we all took Seattle over Detroit. Mike and I both took Green Bay over New York.
But I took New York over Green Bay, and that's going to be the big divider here. If New York loses, which is very, very realistic. I mean, I said before, I said on last week's show, I think it's going to be very difficult for them to go to Lambeau and actually win. I think that's their worst matchup. But if they beat the Packers, I think they're a team that nobody's going to want to play in the NFC.
Yeah, could be. So then that's when it kind of breaks down a little differently. So that would be the Dallas-Green Bay matchup.
Correct.
The Dallas-Green Bay matchup in Mike and I's scenario, we both took. Well, who did you take?
I took Dallas.
Yeah, as did I.
And Jason in that matchup took New York.
Took New York.
Yeah,
to
you took
beat
New
the
York
mighty
over Dallas. So you put New York in the title game in the NFC. Mike and I put Dallas in the title game in the NFC. And then in the other matchup, we took Atlanta. Mike and I took Atlanta.
We all took Atlanta
over Seattle.
As of now. we've got a day or two left. This is the one that I feel like could change for me.
Mr. Hedgie over here.
So Dallas, Atlanta for both of us. New York, Atlanta for Jason. And then I took Atlanta. Mike took Atlanta going to the Super Bowl. And Jason took the New York Football Giants.
I got them Giants. I've got them
So
Giants.
you got the Giants against the Patriots for the third time.
I've got them beating the Patriots for the third time.
There you go.
Crazy.
And then Mike and I actually have our first differentiation. We filled this out separately, had the exact same bracket, but Mike took Atlanta to win the Super Bowl over the New England Patriots. I took the Patriots over Atlanta, and so we will see how it plays out and whether or not which two of us will be eating very bad food choices. So I owe Jason a meal today for his Zeke and Dak Prescott bets.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make it big because I don't think we're eating out tomorrow together. Yeah. You skipped one yesterday.
Yeah.
We're probably going to Cracker Barrel.
Oh, no.
Because there's a wide variety of options at Cracker Barrel.
That's no good.
All right. In lieu of a quick question of the day, right before we get into the Footies. The Footies are moments away. So I know you're on pins and needles. That was you. Yeah, I know. I can see you. In lieu of a quick question, we're going to jump into the
O'Reilly
Auto Parts.
Ow!
Pump the brakes with O'Reilly.
That coordinated beginning was excellent, fellas.
Yeah, that's always the hard part. We do want to thank O'Reilly Auto Parts for sponsoring that segment. This is the last of this season, the Pump the Brakes. And so I'm excited to talk about our 3 Pump the Brakes choices. I'll start with mine.
All right.
I'm going to pump the brakes, and these are all with a view of. This is not playoff oriented. This is a view towards next year. I'm pumping the brakes on LeGarrette Blount. Now, caveat, I don't yet know where the ADP of LeGarrette Blount's going to be, but with 18 touchdowns, my guess is too high. And 11 of those 18 were from the 1-yard line. If you look at his statistics, he obviously had more work this year than he's ever had before. The yards per carry were down. That's okay. A lot of those yards were short yardage backs or short yardage type of situations. But it's impossible not to predict a regression for LeGarrette Blount after an 18-touchdown season when the previous high in his career was 7, which was 5 years ago, mind you. Last year he had 6 touchdowns. Then it was like 3 and 2 the year before. I just think that's one of those situations where, look, a few years ago, Shady McCoy had 20 touchdowns. He dropped down precipitously. It's just going to happen. You don't repeat those type of numbers. In my humble opinion, I'm pumping the brake on LeGarrette Blount.
Yeah, it's I can get on board with this. And to be fair to LeGarrette Blount, he had 7 last year, but only 6 rushing. He had 7 total.
Yeah,
but only 6 rushing touchdowns.
When we were coming up with our pump the brakes, Andy and I were still in the studio. Mike had gone, and this was early. Okay, nobody had made their selections, and I found my guy. Found my guy that I really, really wanted. Andy found his in LeGarrette Blount, and I was so excited to go in, and I was blown away to see that, Mike, you got your pump the brake in super duper early, and this was the guy I wanted.
Oh, well, then we agree.
Yeah, well, so I'm setting you up.
Then I will jump in here. I am pumping the brakes. I like this guy. I like him moving forward next year, but it looks like things are getting out of control already. I love it. I love things getting out of control, but January, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Ajayi. Fantasy Pros recently released that way too early top 10, like looking forward, who's in there, some movers and shakers, some usual suspects, and you get to number 8 overall, the 4th running back. The 4th running back, Ajayi. Look, this guy, he should be a locked and loaded running back too, but the 4th running back off the board to me is out of control.
Would you say it's bananas?
It is bananas. 49% of his yards, almost 50% of his yards came in 3 games. 3 monster games that won you the week. Yes, absolutely. But the other 8 games where he was the starting running back, he was on pace for 1,062 yards. That's fine. Like I said, I like him. Those are good numbers. Those are good, solid running back 2 numbers. But not the 4th overall running back, let alone a top 10 first-round pick. That's flying off the handle to me.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was exactly why I was going to pump the brakes.
Sure it was, Jason. That's his pump the brakes.
But I'm going to pump the brakes on a guy who had a monster season, who is young, who was drafted to have monster seasons, who's a wide receiver with a Hall of Fame quarterback. And you go, what? The wide receiver 7,
What?
Brandin Cooks.
Okay.
That was Brandon with an I. Brandin.
Yeah, I was going to say, he spells his name incorrectly.
Right.
Or correctly.
I'm pumping the brakes on Brandin Cooks because he is going to be overvalued for some of those things that I just brought up when bringing in 2 things into the equation. He is seen right now by most. Certainly the tale has switched for the more astute, but he's seen as the number 1 wide receiver for the Saints. And you want that number 1 wide receiver for Drew Brees, but it is not Brandin Cooks. It is Michael Thomas. Going forward, Michael Thomas is the guy that you are going to want there. And the second reason I'm going to bring it up, and this is the differentiator, is for consistency. Brandin Cooks, I mean, he has a monster game, 6 for 143 and 2 touchdowns. But you can go through the box score and think, oh, he was injured this game. He didn't play. No. He played the whole game. He just didn't do anything. you get those type of weeks out of Brandin Cooks. He is a boom-bust guy that's going to be so expensive draft capital-wise. I would much rather have a Michael Thomas, and I don't want both of those on the same team. So I'm pumping the brakes early, look into next year on the hot and cold Brandin Cooks.
Sometimes he cooks.
The old
sometimes he
icy
doesn't.
hot.
Ajayi, LeGarrette, Blount, Brandin Cooks. That was Pump the Brakes with O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Before we jump into the footies, I do want to thank today's sponsor for helping keep the lights on here at Foot Clan headquarters, and that is Blue Apron. Look, I was subscribed to Blue Apron for a really long time. Our whole family ate it. Took a couple months off. I couldn't take it. I had to sign back up because it was so great. I talked to the wife yesterday. I'm like, we got to do this again. We got to get back on the Blue Apron train because cooking together, it's just fun for the family. It's fun for my wife and I. They send out perfectly portioned meals, and it's really cool. I went into the system yesterday, and you can now make some adjustments and choose exactly what meals you want shipped out each and every week. It's all delicious. I mean, it is absolutely great. And just for an example, here are some of the meals available in January. Seared pork chops with farro and cranberry chutney. Spaghetti squash and marinara with mushrooms and garlic knots. Oh, I love garlic knots. Spicy shrimp and Korean rice cakes with cabbage and furikake. I don't even know how to pronounce that, but it's delicious.
I'm sure it's great.
Delicious.
I would say this. Some of the more unique meals, those have been my favorite meals I've ever had with Blue Apron.
The best burger I ever had was a Blue Apron meal that came in the mail. All right, check out this week's menu and get 3 meals free with free shipping, so you get to try it out by going to blueapron.com/ballers, and you'll love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home-cooked meals with Blue Apron. So do not wait. That's blueapron.com/ballers. Blue Apron, a better way to cook.
And we also want to thank Casper Mattress, the only sponsor helping us to turn the lights off and get a great night's sleep.
I see what you did there.
Sleep is so important. I realized it through this holiday break. Through the holiday break, I'm going to bed at 2 a.m. I'm getting, poor night's sleeps because I am up super late on Christmas Eve and all of those things. And when you get a good night's sleep, you're a human being again. And Casper is the best mattress. Andy Holloway had a mattress that he complained about every day for so long, and he went and got a Casper.
Yep.
And it's
Look at me. I've got a glow.
Now he is a nice man again. And we all can love him. Casper is obsessively engineered, and they are a great company. Look, the memory foam creates an award-winning sleep service. It was Time Magazine's one of the best inventions in 2015, and you can try Casper for 100 nights completely risk-free, as in sleep on it for 100 nights, and if you don't like it, they're going to refund you the money. They're going to come pick it up, ship it out for you. You have nothing to lose, but you can get $50 off any mattress purchase. All you do is go to casper.com/footballers, casper.com/footballers, and use the code footballers for $50 off towards any mattress. You got to check it out. That's Casper.
All right. It's time. Do I have any eager volunteers that want to do the intro?
Sure. I'll handle this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. Gather around your radio sets. Grab a beverage of choice, have a seat, and prepare to have your mind entertained, have your mind enlightened by the 2016 Footie Awards!
Oh, it's time.
Yay!
Time to keep listening to this beautiful tune. Back again for a second straight year. The 2016 Footie Award winners. The voting is over. The voting has been cast.
You know what's not over? This song.
This song is not over.
Never ends!
This song won the Footie for best song, which
It's 22 minutes.
just 13 more
of
seconds.
excellence.
Wait, hold on. I think we're going to wrap it up.
We're almost there. Oh, I'm excited. Hey! Welcome to the Footies. That was delightful.
I thought it was going to keep
Oh,
going.
no, we've got a lot of fun stuff.
Oh,
This is a
man.
great show. This is a fun show. It is exclamation point on a wonderful season, and we've enjoyed sharing that season with everybody out there. And so we wanted to get you involved, get you participating in these votes, and let us know who impacted your season the very most and which nickname impacted your season the very most. So we've got all of that in store. Let's start out. Performance of the year. The nominees were Le'Veon Bell in Week 14. Well, you saw them online. I don't want to go through every single one, but he was 236 and 3 that week. Ezekiel Elliott's Week 10. Aaron Rodgers Week 16. The big Julio Jones 300-yard game. You got a Week 4 Matt Ryan. That famous Ty Montgomery Week 15 performance. Oh, that was sweet for fantasy playoffs. Marvin Jones's Week 3. Back when he was a superstar. And Jay Ajayi's Week 6. You excited?
Yeah, I'll just let everybody know my pick came in second.
Ooh. Well, the winner is Le'Veon Bell.
Hey, Le'Veon Bell, your footie is in the mail.
Your footie is in the mail. Le'Veon Bell's Week 14 performance against Buffalo, 236 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground, another 4 for 62 through the air, and he won with 65% of the vote.
Yeah, this one was going away. People who had him loved that week. A lot of championships won on the back of that week, which is probably what didn't get it done for Julio Jones' 300-yard game because that was Week 4.
Yeah, it's a little bit further back in the memory. And Julio Jones, I bet he would have had a better showing in this category had he really shown up towards the end of the season. People would have said, yeah, well, and remember when he did this for me too. But that Le'Veon Bell performance was unbelievable. They could not stop him at all.
Yeah, he did win going away. Julio was second with 16% of the vote. So Le'Veon Bell, congratulations on your footie.
I voted for Le'Veon Bell.
I did as well. Although Julio deserves credit for hitting 300 yards on the dot.
Yeah, exactly. If it was
precision.
302, it's all right. It's been done before. 300, that's
nice. Fantasy Reapers Man of the Year. The nominees were plentiful. Arian Foster, you found your way in again.
He'll be on next year too.
Oh, I hope so. Doug Martin sprained his ankle during a
he's always up for nomination.
During an interview. Arian Foster, Doug Martin, Adrian Peterson, Rob Gronkowski, Jamal
Keenan
Charles.
Allen, AJ Green with that late season hit you with your hamstring.
Not bad.
It was all right.
CJ Anderson.
It was all right.
Thomas Rawls and Sammy Watkins. So many options. And I will say, this one was close. But the 2016 Fantasy Reaper Man of the Year, Adrian Peterson.
Congratulations, AP. All day, your footie is in the mail.
Not so all day this year. More like one day. 22% of the vote, Adrian Peterson takes home the Fantasy Reapers Man of the Year for the player whose injury most impacted fantasy owners.
He was a first-round pick, and he was seen as the safer first-round pick. And I think that's where this really affected people, because when people were looking, do I take that shot at the David Johnson who had that great end of last year? Do I take the shot at the Ezekiel who's a rookie we've never seen? I'm going to make sure my first pick is a hit. I'm going with Adrian Peterson. Wah, wah.
There is no such thing as safe.
That's
in
true.
Fantasy football. I was a little bit shocked at not only the winner, but the second place, the runner-up in this category, AJ Green. AJ Green got 18% of the vote.
People were pissed.
I mean,
look, AJ Green got you to the playoffs, and then he just said, "Oh, I'm retiring from your roster."
Yeah, I guess it's just more of a timing thing.
Recency.
Because for me, Keenan Allen.
Interesting.
Keenan Allen, I expected a monster season from Keenan Allen, and then the ACL tear, and what was that, week 2?
Well, Keenan wasn't drafted as though he would have you thought.
He was drafted, that I think in the 3rd, 4th round.
Yeah.
By you?
No, by the late.
But Peterson was obviously a top pick.
Yes.
I think Peterson's story next year is going to be one of the more interesting offseason narratives, because he's going to be back.
Not in Minnesota.
You don't think so?
No.
I think he's going to be playing football next year. Is my
Yeah,
point.
okay, that's fine, but I can almost I feel very confident saying he will not be in Minnesota next year.
Well, that'll make it exciting because of all the people to change the expectation. You have the Steven Jacksons and Matt Fortes of the world that leave a team and go somewhere else. Peterson could be a workhorse somewhere else. I still believe in the lore of Adrian Peterson. And that's why he's the Fantasy Reaper Man of the – no, Fantasy Reaper Man of the Year goes to Adrian Peterson, 22% of the vote over A.J. Green. And now, one of the more prestigious awards, it has been rejected in the mail by the recipient
return
before.
to sender.
Because they don't like you mailing diapers. Did you realize this?
Yeah, no, I did realize
Especially
that.
used diapers.
The Poopiest Pants Award
We're just returning it.
going to the most disappointing player who put on their big boy pants, was drafted to your fantasy team, and then he filled them. He filled those pants up. Todd Gurley, DeAndre Hopkins, Allen Robinson, Cam Newton, Kelvin Benjamin, Randall Cobb, and Brandon Marshall were your nominees.
I was shocked to see how, for me, there were two guys that I thought were poopier than the winner, but I was shocked to see how big a margin that this won by.
Well, we'll discuss it, but the winner is Todd Gurley.
Yeah, you stink.
38% of the vote to Todd Gurley. Brandon Marshall was second with 23% of the vote. This is an interesting one to debate because I could make a case for several of these players. I also feel like Allen Robinson deserves greater consideration because he may have ended the year at what? What was he?
At the
25?
end? Yeah.
But that was backloaded. That was after he ruined your season. That didn't matter. So from a perspective of like giving you that wide receiver 40-50 type numbers, he was doing what Brandon Marshall did, except for Allen Robinson was drafted higher than Brandon Marshall.
Yeah, slightly. Let's see. Allen Robinson was a second-round pick.
And Hopkins.
Yeah.
And Hopkins was another pooper.
The thing about Todd Gurley, and we were discussing this, was it has to be the draft position. I mean, when you took him as the number one overall running back. You took him as your top half first-round pick. Meanwhile, if you had played him every single week, you were going, what the heck, man? I'm expecting big numbers. You're looking at what the other top running backs are doing, Shady, DJ. Like, give me one of those weeks, Todd Gurley.
And then you get those juicy matchups, and you go, oh, the Niners.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That was an epic failure.
And then you stake against them. Here's a stat. This stat is credit to Joe Dolan. Miami allowed 130 yards from scrimmage or more, so at least 130 in 8 to the running back position in 8 of its final 9 games. You want to know which team did not get there? The 9th one, the only team to fail to get there was L.A. and Todd Gurley with 80 yards.
But the thing about Gurley was he ended up as the running back 17. He still gave you it was not very high, but he still gave you points every single week. Meanwhile, Brandon Marshall is just destroying your lineup. And Brandon Marshall, I don't know if you saw the quote came out. He was on Inside the NFL. He says the best way I can describe it is having a diaper on and never changing it, just sitting in that diaper the whole year. Brandon Marshall knew the Poopiest Pants Award was coming his way.
You know what? When that gets returned in the mail, we'll just send it on to Brandon Marshall. He will accept it. He sees it for what it is.
He knows.
38% of the vote to Gurley. Marshall had 23% of the vote. So
he had my vote.
He also missed the game. So that wasn't good. Not a good season for Brandon Marshall. Very curious about him. Very, very afraid of him in any type of keeper dynasty format. I mean, he's a bounce back redraft guy.
And on the show, I mean, there was the blurbs going out. It says, "Oh, Brandon Marshall willing to take pay cut to stay with the New York Jets." Well, on the same show where he talked about conceding his poopiest pants, he said, "No." And then he had a whole clarification for those comments. He was just saying,
I know what I'm worth.
Yeah, my bills are paid. I love this game so much. It's like I would play for free, but I'm not going to play for free.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hold your horses.
But so just he will be very interesting. Does he end up back in New York? Does a contender actually take a shot on him?
All right, we're moving on to the waiver wire wonder. Who are the nominees, Jason?
Well, some of the most important nominees, you got the rookie sensation Dak Prescott and the late season Rob Kelly. You have Ajayi, who was great off of the waivers. Terrell Pryor, Tyreek the Freak, Cameron Brate, Jordan Howard was excellent off the waivers. You got the woke one, Kristen Michael. A lot of great waiver wire pickups.
Tevin Coleman.
Yeah, Tevin Coleman, Devontae Adams. A lot of guys in this list who you found on the waivers, and they really impacted your fantasy season. But only one can win.
And the winner is...
Jordan Howard!
Congratulations, your footy is in the mail. Well, I mean, none of these guys bothered to show up.
It's embarrassing. Well, because, Fallon put in a bad word about us. Jordan Howard, 53% of the vote, run away, literally and figuratively, with this one.
As he should. I mean, the Foot Clan just nailed this one. They got it right because they realized Jordan Howard was elite. I mean, completely elite. He wasn't he like third in the league from running back yards?
13-13. Yeah,
I can
he
verify
was.
that.
It's interesting, though, because he won going away 53% of the vote compared to 15% of the vote for Ajayi, who was second place. They had very similar numbers, 1,313 yards for 6 touchdowns for Howard. Ajayi had 1,272 yards with 8 touchdowns.
Jason, you were very wrong. He was not third because he was second in the league in rushing yards.
I mean, second in the league in rushing yards.
Behind Zeke. 2 rookies leading the way.
On a poor team, that's got a bad game script, who didn't start the first 3 games.
So my question moving forward, because one of my things that I feel like I've learned this last year, and it's, do we push it a little bit more in the offseason, is great running backs on bad teams. We saw Todd Gurley, his rookie year, sensational. Bad team. Came out, just won a Poopiest Pants Award. Do we have any fear of Jordan Howard moving into the future?
Yes, we do, because we've seen this before also on a Cincinnati team with Jeremy Hill. We saw a rookie explosion. And the fact is you have to have a worry. You have to have a built-in risk with somebody like that, because otherwise you do. You draft Todd Gurley at the very, very top of the draft after what you've seen.
T-Rich.
And you can be burned.
Yeah. I expect Howard to be like a back of the second-round pick.
I will say this. Let's ask this question. Will he meet or exceed the numbers from this year? And I think he will not meet them.
No, he will not meet the numbers from this
year.
It'll be tough.
The touchdown number should be there. The 6
he
touchdowns.
only had 6.
So,
although maybe Brian Hoyer will be back.
Yeah.
All
right. We're moving on. Congratulations, Jordan Howard. We're moving on to the wide receiver of the year. This was a close one. Very, very close. You had consideration for Antonio Brown, Jordy Nelson, Mike Evans, Odell Beckham Jr., T.Y. Hilton, and Michael Crabtree. Very interesting. I voted myself for the consistency that is Antonio Brown, but he was not one of the top 2 finishers.
I voted for the number 2 finisher.
Well, because you factor in draft position also matters.
Sure.
When you're spending the first wide receiver off the board, Antonio Brown, you darn better have consistency.
Darn better. The winner of the wide receiver of the year goes to...
my BFF, Mike Evans, was the winner.
Your footy is in the mail.
No, his footy is, I'm holding on that one. He needs to personally pick this up so I may shake his hand and say,
just deliver it.
I love you, Mike Evans.
Deliver it. Well, yeah, I mean, you're going to have to reach up high.
Get on your scooter.
I will. He's very large.
Go to Tampa.
So Mike Evans, 35% of the vote.
Jump on my razor.
Second place was Jordy Nelson.
Some tricks.
That's 31% of the vote.
He had my vote, but I mean, you really, I voted for Jordy Nelson, and I think the Foot Clan got this right. I got it wrong, because while Jordy was great, Mike Evans finished as the number 1 wide receiver overall.
You got to love it.
He was. I know in our Ultimate Draft Kit, he was the top breakout candidate for this year. So happy we got that one right. He made a huge difference. He was good in the playoffs. He was good through the season. Very consistent. Big props to you, Mike.
I'm gonna put you on the spot here. You have Antonio Brown, Jordy Nelson, Mike Evans, Odell Beckham Jr., T.Y. Hilton, and Michael Crabtree. Rank them for next year real quick.
Antonio Brown.
Brown is still number one.
I would go Brown, Beckham, Evans, Jordy, Hilton, Crabtree.
I have the same.
Yeah,
list.
I think I would go right around there.
All right. We're moving on. Mike, why don't you handle this next category?
All right. If you're talking about the wide receiver of the year, of course, you must discuss the running back of the year. These are the fellas, the fine fellas who were up for nomination this year. You had David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell, LaShawn McCoy, Ezekiel Elliott, and DeMarco Murray, the surging DeMarco Murray.
Wonderful season for all of those guys.
Yeah.
So let's get to it. The winner of the running back of the year.
Oh, there should be no surprises here.
There are no surprises when it comes to the running back of the year. This man was sensational.
As good as it gets.
Sensational. Almost 16 games of 100-plus yards from scrimmage. An absolute dominant force. 20 touchdowns. 20 touchdowns. This man carried you.
David Johnson.
61% of the vote. 61%.
David Johnson.
1,239 yards.
Skip on down.
16 touchdowns. 80 receptions.
20 touchdowns on the bar. Get so many on the bar.
879 receiving yards. And, he ran away with this one. One of the highest voting differentials, 61%. Lev Bell, more power to you. 12 games, you were great, 13% of the vote.
When you get second place with 13% of the vote,
Yeah.
you take a back.
Yeah, it's tough. So next year, who's your first running back off the board?
I can tell you mine.
I
It's the number 2 pick. It's Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, it's still Le'Veon Bell for me as well. Love David Johnson. It's splitting hairs, honestly, when you're just – that argument over the offseason will be a argument of ridiculousness.
I know this could sound excessive, but, is there a little bit with David Johnson getting injured on the last game of the year after a huge workload, is there any hesitation that he comes back and gets the same workload?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think that's an issue.
Not for me. And the difference, why Le'Veon Bell over David Johnson, those 20 touchdowns, I mean, those are incredible. But you look at the yardage, Lev outrushed him, he was farther behind when it comes to receiving totals. But he was suspended for 3 games, and he sat out an entire game.
Yeah,
he only had 7 touchdowns. His season was great without the kind of – I just made the argument about LeGarrette Blount. You have to be fair.
Just going to say, David Johnson's not getting 20 touchdowns next year.
He's getting 25, 30. Hey, remember, man, LaDainian Tomlinson, 30 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's a lot. All right, moving on to the tight end of the year. It was an interesting year at the tight end position. Nominees were Travis Kelce, Greg Olsen, Delaney Walker, Jimmy Graham, Cameron Brate, and Kyle Rudolph. I'm gonna spill the beans here. Cameron Brate was second on this list.
That's excellent.
With
finally
15% of the vote, but the winner of the tight end of the year, Footie, goes to
brown bag, Travis Kelce.
Zeus. He went 85 for 1,125 yards and 4 touchdowns. Ended up the tight end 1. Didn't get what you expected out of Gronkowski and Reed this season, or Greg Olsen.
Well,
you did for half a season.
Greg Olsen's first half was incredibly good.
I was going to say, I expected Jordan Reed and Gronk to get hurt. Just not that hurt.
I think in your mind, you expected it. Publicly, you only expected it for Gronk.
Right.
Yes.
You didn't want to believe that.
I said
Reed
Jordan
could
Reed
get hurt.
is absolutely a risk.
Okay.
The tight ends were barfy this year, and so that's why you get a brown bag. And Kelce, congratulations for winning the best of the worst.
I believe we said this was the lowest tight end scoring year since 2006.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind for next season.
The thing is, though, for Travis,
the water level lowered.
Travis Kelce moving forward, what happens with him? I mean, because 2 years ago, I loved Travis Kelce because the ability, the player. I mean, he's an athletic beast. We call him Zeus. I believe it was Evan Silva coined the term, I believe. So if I've credited him incorrectly, I apologize. But he's called that because he is such a monster of a man. But that offensive scheme, Alex Smith never forced the ball to him. You have that Jeremy Maclin injury, and all of a sudden he just unleashes 4 straight 100-yard games. I mean, big plays, touchdowns.
I had him ranked as my number 3 tight end behind Reed and Gronkowski before this season. And the reason I love Travis Kelce is because he is not Tyler Eifert, okay? His season wasn't dependent on a 13-touchdown year to become the number 1 tight end. His season, he actually had less touchdowns this year than his previous 2 years. 5. This year he had 4. But he was the number 1 tight end because he had 1,125 yards on 85 catches. The past 3 years, 16 games, 67 receptions, then 72, then 85. He's ascendant, okay? He's 27 years old. He's in his peak. They know how to use him. And, yeah, you don't get Martellus Bennett's 3-touchdown game every 8 games.
And
but you get consistency.
You do, but it's not every single game. I mean, you had, coming off those hundreds, you had a stretch of 24 yards, 32 yards, 23 yards.
That's tight end.
Yeah, but I'm saying, can Travis Kelce compete with Gronk and Reed? A healthy Gronk and healthy Reed?
I don't think so because I think of what you said. The Alex Smith in the offense, I don't know if he can compete with those guys, but he certainly took it home this year.
Basically, he was 3rd place this year, except Reed and Gronk got injured. All right, next up is the most important position in real football.
The kicker! Boom boom kicker of the year.
Boom kicker.
Why did we not have a
boom boom kicker of the year?
That was a failure.
The Foot Clan was quite disappointed. I heard about it on Twitter.
Oh, man.
I apologize.
You know who's not going to be nominated for that?
Chandler
Catanzaro. Anyways, the quarterbacks of the year, we had some great ones. My favorite guy to draft before the season was Drew Brees. He's been great. Andrew Luck, Andy's favorite guy to draft next year. Kirk Cousins. You had Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers, the 1 and 2 in fantasy football. But this year, there can be only one. And running away with it is Matthew Ryan. A guy who also was
he's a guy
tops in our sleeper list on our ultimate draft kit. Matt Ryan finished as the quarterback 2 with 66% of the vote. He was amazing this year, and for where you drafted him, I mean, you had to draft. Look, Aaron Rodgers finished as quarterback 1. I would have in my drafts taken him as the first quarterback off the board. That's going to cost me a lot. I would much rather, instead of having Aaron Rodgers and some garbage running back, let me draft Melvin Gordon where Aaron Rodgers was going, and then grab Matt Ryan, the number 2 quarterback. He won a lot of people championships this year, and he finally got it going with Kyle Shanahan, with Julio. Great season, over 5,000. Oh, he didn't get to 5,000.
No, he almost got to 5K. A really interesting thing here, Mitchell Renz on Twitter here. This thing it's kind of picking up some steam, going viral. He put out a test for people. He put up a poll, and he said, who had the better season? They deserve the MVP. Aaron Rodgers or Matt Ryan, right? Aaron Rodgers comes in with 52% of the vote. Very close, but Aaron Rodgers wins. Then he does a blind test. Who had the better season? And quarterback A versus quarterback B, gives the team record and gives the stats. 81% for Matt Ryan. So it's funny how we are blinded by these names that we know and we love.
No, I'm just throwing this out there because I said this on Twitter about a week ago. My MVP this year, it's hard not to give it to Matt Ryan, but it is Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, no way.
It is 100% Aaron Rodgers. Here's why. Because what you don't have in all of that is you don't have Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman. You don't have a defense that's good. You don't have the sack leader in the NFL. You have a defense that collapsed. You have running backs that just died one after the other. And you had a team that halfway through the year was dead to rights. And one man put them on their back and ran the table. You take Aaron Rodgers away from you take Aaron Rodgers away from the pack, and they're competing for that number 1 pick. You take Matt Ryan away, and
they're doing the same thing.
They're doing the same thing to me. I mean, the Falcons
swap them.
Yeah.
Okay, put Matt Ryan on the Green Bay Packers. They're not a playoff team, not even close.
It's not.
Put Aaron Rodgers on the
Strongly
Falcons.
disagree.
Those things are too hard to compare because they are where they are. They got to do what they can do with the cast around them. I voted for
Ryan.
Yeah.
Ryan, yeah.
All right, breakout player of the year. We have that. We have the rookie of the year, the comeback player of the year, the steal of the draft, and the nickname award still to come.
Oh man.
Breakout player of the year. This goes to the player who, they broke out. They put a subpar year, a mediocre year up yet last year, and they broke out into fantasy glory this season. For consideration, for nominations, we had Mariota, we had Derek Carr, Ajayi, who finds himself on many of these voting lists, Tevin Coleman, Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, Melvin Gordon, and Cameron Brate. And the winner for the breakout player of the year with 997 rushing yards, it's Melvin Gordon.
AKA Mr. Perfect Situation.
10 touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns, did it through the air, did it on the ground, despite some injury. Ajayi came in second with 14% of the vote. Congrats to Melvin Gordon.
This has not been a great show for Ajayi.
Has he lost or finished second on all of them?
We double pumped the brakes,
Oh man.
and then he's coming in number 2.
Second on Waiver Wire Wonder.
Yeah. And second here.
We're going full Adam Gase on Ajayi right now.
Well, take the challenge, my
Just
friend.
trying to bury him. Melvin Gordon. My
your
opinion,
footy is in the
your
mail.
footy is in the mail. Absolutely. Be careful putting that one on your foot. But Melvin Gordon did change my opinion of him throughout the season. I don't know if he's guaranteed the workload that he was given. Danny Woodhead to start the year was it was a 1A, 1B. Danny Woodhead was getting all the receiving down work. Danny Woodhead was getting goal line work. So did Melvin Gordon show whoever the new coaching staff is, did he show enough that they're going to put their trust back in Melvin Gordon? Because he's going to be drafted like this is what people are expecting.
That's what stinks is that there's a new coaching staff coming in, and possibly they've said they want to keep Kitten Wisenhunt and the offensive side intact, so maybe there won't be a massive change there. But let me just ask this.
I do not have a fear about Gordon at all.
Let me ask this.
Just for the record, because he's high draft capital, great performance this year. I do not have a word.
Next year, do you draft Melvin Gordon or Todd Gurley?
Ooh,
that will be determined by the coaching staffs on both teams. They both don't have them now. So
Sure.
I'll let that differentiate them. Yeah.
As of right now,
It's Gordon.
It's Gordon.
Right
for
now
me.
it's Gordon.
Me as well.
Rookie of the year. This one barely needs to be discussed. Ezekiel Elliott, Jordan Howard, Michael Thomas, Tyreek the Freak, and Dak Prescott were the nominees. The winner by the biggest margin of any category. You
Of
know
course.
his name. 77% of the vote. Ezekiel Elliott.
Easy E.
Jordan Howard was second place with 8% of the vote.
Nice try, Jordan.
I think there can be a solid argument about what Howard did with what he had, but you can't argue with 15 touchdowns.
16 really, but 15 on the ground. 1,631 yards. Added another 361 yards through the air. Ezekiel Elliott was everything you hoped for when you drafted him and more.
And just a quick, because I was going to talk about this for the waiver wire. Talk about Dak Prescott a little bit. I finished up the quarterbacks. Looking at consistency, who finished as a quarterback 1, who finished top 3, those kinds of things. Who was a guy that really helped you out, didn't just explode for your team, blow up his point total. There were 5 guys who had double-digit performances in the top 12. Normal names: Rodgers, Luck, Ryan, Drew Brees. Dak Prescott 10 times was a quarterback 1. He never gave you a top 3 performance, but he always gave you consistent numbers. He never, I won't say never, but for the majority, he didn't crap your team. And Dak Prescott is a guy who I really like as a target moving into next season, because I think
Did not have Dez with him most of the year.
and I think that the public perception of Dak is still one of
Game manager.
he's okay.
Game
He'll be
manager.
okay for fantasy football, so you can get him,
Super
8th,
late.
9th
Super
round.
late.
Hopefully.
All right.
Comeback player of the year. We had some great nominees: Jimmy Graham, DeMarco Murray, Melvin Gordon, Andrew Luck, and Matt Ryan. But the winner, rightly so,
Yes.
in an incredible comeback. There's no dead legs here. It's DeMarco Murray. I mean, that's what we thought when he was in Philly. He looked like he his legs were just gone, but he came back with a vengeance for the Titans. He was a fantasy football difference maker, had 1,287 yards, 9 touchdowns on the ground, 3 touchdowns receiving. He was great. I got to give a shout out here to the runner-up.
Yes.
A man that I voted for solely because I think the way we worded the question was, who surprised you the most? And I buried Jimmy Graham. I didn't think Jimmy Graham had any chance in the world of coming back this season off of his specific injury and being relevant. I'm just so proud of him.
Yeah, it was the resurgence of Jimmy Graham was amazing. But DeMarco Murray, he got back to the system where he can excel. He wasn't in that Chip Kelly spread. Everything is lateral. Everything is out of the shotgun. Let him pound it up the middle. Next year, you have what was a pretty solid rookie season for Derrick Henry, who Derrick Henry looks like he could be a guy who could handle it himself. But Murray will be back next season. They're on the hook for a good bit of cash for Murray. Any concerns drafting him because he's going to go, 3rd round, back of 2nd round?
I think Murray, and I think you see almost the identical season as you do this past year. That's my prediction for next year. Barring injury, barring a change, I think you'll see the same thing. They got incredible production out of sharing that workload. They're in the power offense. They love running the football. So I like. By the way, 43% of the vote for Murray compared to 18% for Jimmy Graham. So that was an overwhelming victory for DeMarco. Congratulations on your footy.
Yes,
it's in the mail.
And then we're moving on to the steal of the draft.
This is my favorite category for fantasy owners.
This is my second favorite category.
Okay.
The big dog was coming up. That's my favorite.
That's why it's second to last here.
But steal of the draft, this is how you win fantasy championships, is if you hit on one of these guys late in your draft, you have a major, major advantage moving into the season.
And these were all steals.
Yes.
That's all the nominees were steals. These were all headline names. You might have won because of one of them, even if your guy didn't win this category.
Yes. So, without further ado, the nominees for steal of the draft: LeGarrette Blount, Matt Ryan, LaShawn McCoy, Melvin Gordon, T.Y. Hilton, and DeMarco Murray. Some of these guys taken much later in the draft, like a Matt Ryan. T.Y. Hilton, he was still a mid-round pick, yet he performed like a first-round pick. So I think they're very, very their place in this poll is acceptable and worthy, yes. The winner is...
He's a big boy.
He's a monster of a man.
LeGarrette Blount.
Well-deserving LeGarrette Blount.
The steal of the draft, drafted at 102 overall, wins this category, wins the footy with 35% of the vote. Melvin Gordon comes in second with 18% of the vote. Congratulations, LeGarrette.
I believe 2/3 of us actually have LeGarrette Blount in our playoff challenge roster for fantasy football through the playoffs. He looks good to me.
Looks good.
I took him out for that early pump for next year. The pump. No. All right, one category left.
Oh,
it's the most prestigious award given to mankind.
The Nobel Peace Prize is garbage
compared to the nickname of the year, Footie Award. Oh, so many options this year.
There's some great ones.
The Mad Hatter.
Who can forget?
Oh, C.J. Fedorowicz.
Who can forget?
Crazy Mad Hatter.
The Rolls Royce.
Blub, 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 blub,
blub. Thomas Rawls.
Tyreek.
The freak. The woke one himself.
Oh, Kristen Michael.
This is the competition in this category is
the
unbelievable.
slippery fish. Are you kidding me? Shady. LaShawn McCoy. Or how about Hooked? You get it. Hooked on a feeling.
Oh, that one grabbed us at the end of the year.
The incurable
Beazles.
The Beazles. Cole Beasley.
Blah, blah, blah. I will say this. I did not vote for blah, blah, but that's my favorite. It's just, I love that.
And then you also had Crowd Ass.
It's pronounced
pronounced with an Humphreys.
Adam Humphreys, pronounced with an Humphreys.
This was as expected with the prestigious nature of this award. Very high competition. Most of these guys were petitioning listeners
lot
on
of
their
lobbyists.
behalf.
It's
a lot
very
of lobbying.
political, trying to bring this award home.
Now, the winner, I'll tell you, the winner had 22% of the vote.
That's great. That's the lowest by,
Yeah, and the second place was blah, blah.
blah, blah.
He took it home with 14% of the vote, but 22% of the vote went to the winner. And look, well-deserved. 22% of the vote.
He was a section of our year.
Somehow always in fantasy relevance.
Have you felt it?
I felt it this year. 2 teams felt it because he couldn't stay in one place. The winner is
The woke one.
the woke one, Kristen Michael, the enigma of fantasy football and NFL rosters, takes it home, the nickname of the year. Congratulations,
Yes.
Kristen.
Congratulations.
You may not be able to stay on a roster or get a consistent paycheck, but you sure as heck can take home the 2016 nickname of the year.
He's in the playoffs, my friend.
Oh, gosh. I hope. I hope they play Seattle now. I hope somehow Kristen Michael
Revenge game.
does something against Seattle. So we will post all the winners of the 2016 Footies on the website. I'm sure we'll be tweeting them out on Twitter. That is it for the 2016 Footie Awards. Do you guys have any closing thoughts?
Just Foot Clan, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for another sensational year with the podcast. Thank you for voting. Thank you for all the support that you give us here. It's it's tough to form into words how blessed we feel to be able to do this every single day, bringing you this information, this entertainment. So just thank you so very much.
And I would just say next week we've got some great shows lined up as we look towards the off season and the possible free agency.
We need to go back
All sorts of
We
things.
need
to
go
the
back.
future.
Don't forget, if you won that #FootClan title, get your trophy at fantasyjocks.com.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.